We are live. We are live. We are live.
You're only cracking, huh?
Yes, yes, yes. So, before we start out, I have to make sure that I do this.
It's time for change.
All right. Yeah.
And you guys see I have my display here.
How long will we fight? When will we have unity to change the wrong to right? Don't you know love is the answer to all our misery? Won't you take my hand today? Tomorrow we'll be free. Will we take to find myself again? Won't you tell me?
Okay, guys, welcome to the Candy Show.
Well, thank you, Candy, for having us.
And I do apologize again. We had some technical difficulties earlier. It was me. This is my first IG Live and Zoom call. But we guys got you on here, so I do appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having us.
So, guys, I want to let you know that you are on the Candy Show, and this year I have not had a beverage, an appropriate beverage, but now I feel like I have to, because there's no way that I am here talking to the legendary group, The Whispers, without setting the mood correctly, because that's what you guys have done for literally 50 plus years.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you see, I have the candles, I have my roses, I have my alcohol, and I have my candy.
Absolutely.
And my wine. So first of all, I want to say toast up. Thank you guys for the opportunity. Thank you, God, for allowing us to be here another day.
That's exactly right.
So much for allowing me to come into your home.
Oh, thank you so much. We're all blessed. That's the way I look at it.
So tell us, everyone, I just had an opportunity to play you guys The Whispers' latest song called How Long?
Yeah.
And before we get into that, let's talk about the legendary group, The Whispers, and how long have you guys been in the business?
Well, we've been around for over 50 years, 54 to be exact. And that word, how long, is a good question to ask because we've been doing this kind of music for a long time. Before How Long came along, we had a song called Seems Like I Gotta Do Wrong Before They Notice Me. And that was before you were born. So we've been making this message music for a lot of years. And How Long just came right at the right time because our country is going through a fabulous period right now. And while we were in the process of trying to do something, we hadn't really released anything in about 14 years. So we were getting ready to come with what we think of as a typical whisper love song. And then all of a sudden we saw George Floyd with that knee on his neck. And we said, we got to change this plan. We got to come with a song that speaks to what's going on in today's society. And that's how Long came about.
Okay. Let's go back to the very beginning. Let's go back to the very beginning. How did the Whispers form? Now we see that Mr. Scotty Scott and Walter Scott, you are twins.
Yeah, that's right.
But then you have a few other members. We want to definitely make sure we say rest in peace to
Absolutely.
both of your members, Mr. Nicholas Caldwell.
Absolutely.
And Mr.
And Marcus Hudson.
Yes, Hudson.
Yeah.
And we're missing one person. Now, who are we missing, guys?
Yeah, Lavelle Degree. Yeah, he had an emergency. He couldn't make it, so we miss him too. But he's part of the Whispers. It's the five of us, and like you said, we've been together for a lot of years.
Well, tell everyone how the group came about, because I heard you guys started in a talent show.
That's right. Tell them about it, Scotty.
Well, back in the day in our neighborhood, there used to be a series of talent shows that would be brought in on the weekend by the radio stations, and we would get involved in all of the talent shows. Back then, me and my brother, we were known as the Scott twins, and we would enter the talent shows, and there'd be a lot of different acts on the show. And there was another group called the Eden Trio that was on the show, and backstage while we were all waiting to go on, we heard their sound, and we said, wow, those guys sound pretty good. So we thought maybe, hey, let's take that sound and put it with ours, and we might even have a better sound, which is kind of primarily how the Whispers came about. We took the two groups and put them together. Next thing you know, we didn't really have the name the Whispers at that time. We just thought, since we liked what we heard, we'd put it together, and we did that. And next thing you know, we went looking for record deals.
Interesting. Now I'm a very big fan of talent shows because that's where I started out, was in talent shows. And I know locally here we don't have them anymore. They're very few. But the reason why I wanted to make sure that we stress that you guys started with a talent show atmosphere is because it's needed, and a lot of the well-known artists, legendaries as yourself, they were discovered in talent shows.
That's exactly right. Talent shows is what brought people in our neighborhood together. And you can go all around this country and you will find some, you know that as well as I do, extremely talented young people. Back in our day, we were kind of wanted to be like the Temptations. Motown in the 60s was very hot. So when we entered this talent show as a duet, and the Eden Trio, it was three of them, that made five when you count them. We said, you know what? We can be like the Temps and the Four Tops and the Miracles. So that's what we kind of did. But it was that talent show that brought us together. And as I said, you can go anywhere you want in the United States, and you're going to find the talent is going to be there when it comes to black young people. We know how to sing. We know how to dance, you know. And the only part that we're missing, we say this all the time, it's called show business. We kind of fall short on the business side, but the show part we've always had. That ain't no problem. That's why them talent shows are so important.
Now you guys are coming from where right now?
We're coming from Los Angeles, California.
Okay, and you guys are based out of Los Angeles too as well. That's where you started, correct?
That's where we started, right here in Watts, California, in the projects.
And I have to tell you, I'm gonna confess, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I was not able until recently to tell you guys apart. Now there's a distinct, one has hair and the other one doesn't. So that's the way I'm able to tell you guys apart. But earlier on, I was not able to do that.
Yeah.
It's very hard, even till now. Like, I really still can't tell you apart other than one has hair and one doesn't.
You know what? I'm trying to get him to join me. Much more convenient, you know, when you don't have to worry about it, you know?
I tell you, I trust me, I know. So you guys formed together in a talent show. And first of all, I want to say this as well. You guys have been legendary in more than one reason. You all continue to maintain the same group members. Now, why was that when you could have easily replaced someone?
Well, it started with, I would say, upbringing. You know, we all were brought up by single moms. And the one thing they taught all of us is that you're only as strong as your weakest link. So once we put it together, we believed in that's the way we should roll. And we've rolled that way for over 54 years. Even when we lost our members that you mentioned earlier, like Nicholas and Marcus, if you've noticed, there's no replacement for them because they're irreplaceable as far as we're concerned. And there's three of us left. And that's the way it's going to be. You know, we believe stick with the one you came with. And we started that way, and that's the way we plan on ending it.
And I definitely would agree with that. When you form a group, you can't replace that person because that person brings something different to the table that no one else could most likely ever match.
That's right.
That's right.
Let's go back to that. Mr. Nicholas Caldwell, he added so much.
No
and let me also say, I am a dancer too. So
You can
tell
relate
us,
to Nick.
go ahead, say it again.
If you're a dancer, then I know you can relate to Nicholas Caldwell, because buddy, that's what he did.
The moves on all of you guys, but and as a dancer and a choreographer, I pretty much was able to tell who made the routines up.
Yeah, everybody can tell that Nick was the choreographer, no question.
Yes, yes. But you all had your time where you were blending in too, because it's very hard to actually sing and dance, isn't it?
Oh, there's no question about it. But that's why Nick was so important to this group. You know, Nick was the core, the very core that really put us together as to the style of how the Whispers perform. It was Nick who designed all of the choreography, and this brother was, I mean, he was a perfectionist. He basically said to us, I want to design the way we come from the stage, from the edge of the curtain to the point that we reach the middle of the stage. And when we get to the middle of the stage, I want to make sure that what we're doing, everybody knows what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're doing it. So Nick was the core of the Whispers. And then what you see today is the remnants of what he really created. So we can never replace him, to be honest with you.
Do you guys continue the same moves from the first step to the last step? Like, has there been any of the moves that's changed over the years?
No, to be honest with you, we're very proud of the fact that we come from the generation, you know, I'm looking at you, you're very young, and I'm sure your parents remember the Temptations and the Four Tops. In our generation, all of these groups came out well choreographed, well dressed. You understand what I'm saying? And when you come see us today, that's what you see. We don't dare change it. We think it's golden as far as we're concerned. The way we do it and how we do it, nothing's ever changed. And so, you know, if you come to the Whisper Show, you're going to see the way all of us did. It was a big competition, no question about it. We imitated the Temptations and the OJs, and you know, we all wanted to compete against each other. But it was a fabulous show, and it still goes on right today.
And that's one of the things that I have always stressed. When you go and you pay your money for a show, you want a show. And
Right.
when you come from that era where you guys put that in, you instill that into that generation, you always show up as if people are here to see you. And that's what they are. You set yourself apart from your audience. And that's what you guys do, from your wardrobe to the fancy foot moves and your harmonizing. I just love it.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
Well, you know, it's amazing that someone as young as you, because your generation was totally different. And the fact that, like I say, looking at you, that you can appreciate what we did back in our generation is just, we appreciate it. We appreciate you acknowledging it, and you understand it, because most people at your age, they're kind of in their own situation and they don't really know what took place before they got here. It's amazing that you do. I compliment you.
I thank you. I thank you. I appreciate it. Well, I'm a 70s baby. So when my parents, say it again.
You tell your parents we thank them for having you, because believe me, your parents are the ones that put us here.
Listen, every Friday and Saturday night, my parents, mainly my father, but both of them, we heard all the good music. Fridays and Saturday nights up to like 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And at that time for me, it was like, oh, I want to just go to sleep. I'm getting tired of it. But now as I get older, I appreciate music and I understand good music. I know good music.
Oh, that's what it's about. That music has staying power. It ain't going nowhere. It's going to be here forever.
How long did it take you guys to really feel like you made it? Because I heard it was like 15 or so years after so many tries and albums. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, in 1980, when we had And the Beat Goes On, it's funny because we were on stage in Shreveport, Louisiana, and they stopped our show and they brought out 5 gold albums, and we were shocked. I mean, we didn't know. Nick was angry because, you know, being the perfectionist that he was, he didn't want the show to be stopped. But they presented us with a gold album, and that was in 1980. Little did we know, 2 months later, that album, it simply was called The Whispers. It had And the Beat Goes On it. It would be platinum. And in another 2 months, it would be double platinum. Well, as far as we were concerned, that's when we knew that validated for us that they really like you. We knew then that our fans were with us. And it was the greatest feeling in the world. I mean, since then, we had several gold and platinum albums, but that first one, which was in 1980, we'll never forget it. And that's when we, in our mind at least, knew that we had arrived in terms of the acceptance of how people feel about the Whispers.
And I want to add to that, when we got that first gold album, we had been singing almost 14 years because we were laughing. People were saying the record went so big. They said, man, have you heard this new record by this new group? We said, new group. We'd been singing at least 14 years then. So, but from 1980 to, let's say 1988, everything we touched, thanks to the man upstairs, either went gold or platinum. So we were very blessed.
Now, during that time frame, didn't you guys feel a little frustrated and you wanted to give up? Because I have to tell you, that is a long time.
Oh, yeah. I guess around 1977, 78, when the disco era came in, it wiped out a lot of artists who were like us, was singing straight up R&B. The disco era came in, and that was a different kind of music. It was a dance music, mostly, but a lot of groups that were singing R&B, they kind of went out with disco. So, and we almost got discouraged ourselves. In 1980, I think 1978, we had a record called "I Fell in Love at the Disco." And that record, the only people that bought it, thank God, was our parents. We said, you know what? Maybe it's time for us to call it, but we didn't give up. Little did we know, going into 1979, 80, we were in the studio recording a song called And the Beat Goes On. And you know what, Candy? We knew then, it's funny how we knew we had a hit. We said, if this does not make it as a hit, we're in the wrong business. And when we finished And the Beat Goes On, what we thought for sure was a hit turned out to be the biggest hit that we ever had.
And it still plays. You can't.
Hey, isn't that something?
When you play a whisper song, they're automatically identifiable because of the uniqueness of the voices. No, number one. Because I was explaining to a lot of people when earlier on, some albums you weren't able to see the artist's face.
That's right.
Right.
And the only way you could know who they were by their voices.
Yeah.
And understand that now, heck, we don't even have albums anymore. Let's just put it. But you guys have always remained standoutish.
Well,
I wanted to say this because after 14 years, most people will say just forget it. But I want to ask, with all of that type of catalog, how do you guys feel about the many years and the many hours that you were in the studio and only that one hit just happened to just put you on? It's like, gosh, why couldn't anybody like the other songs?
That's what we said, yeah. No, it validates all the hard work, When you're doing it, we say this to young people all the time. If you believe in your dream, don't give up. Because we got to that point. We thought about saying, especially our parents. My mom said, look, y'all got to get some jobs with some benefits, all this entertainment stuff. She wasn't with that. But we stuck with it because we really believed in ourselves. And we tell young people this all the time. If you're serious. Now, a lot of young people, they get in this and they're really not serious. What they find out is that entertainment is no different than any other job. If you really want to be a success, you're going to have to work hard. It's not easy. But if you're serious, don't give up. I mean, we're a perfect example. After 14 years, you would say, wait a minute, why don't y'all just call it? We didn't. And when we least expected, in 1980, after 14 years, we got that one hit that took us for the next 54. We've been here now 54. So that's why I say never give up.
Now, while Lavelle is not here, tell us a little bit about him. You know, I see he's back there doing his fancy footwork too.
Yeah, Lavelle, he was not one of the original members. He replaced the young man. His name was Scotty Harmon. And back in the day, he had a bad accident. As a matter of fact, he went through the windshield of his car in an accident and just messed up his larynx, which took him out completely. And we replaced him with Lavelle. And how we found Lavelle is that me and him end up being what you call car buddies. You know, we were into the cars and fixing our cars and doing wheels. And you know, when I would come, I was living at the time in Oakland, California, and I would fly down back and forth to my family in Los Angeles. And he would be the guy that would pick me up at the airport. And one day, taking me back to the airport, a song came on the radio, and he started singing with the song. And he had this real sweet falsetto. And as long as I had known, I didn't even know he could sing. I said, man, I didn't know you could sing like that. He said, oh, yeah. He said, well, quiet as it's kept, I've been really following you guys, and I'm a real big fan. So when Gordy had his accident, as far as I was concerned, he was the perfect guy to replace him. And after maybe a couple of years, that's exactly what happened. We brought him in, and he had to go through Nick first. wasn't feeling him at first, you know, because Nick said he's a nice looking guy and all that, but he can't really move, you know. So him and Nick went through that for about a year. And so Nick said, well, we'll give him a shot, but it must have been a year and a half. Lavelle came in, but he was singing backstage. He learned all the parts. He was singing all the notes. And finally, Nick said it's time for him to come on stage. And when that happened, the rest is history. He joined us, and he never looked back.
Oh, wow. He must have known in his heart that he had to pay his dues. So
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
I tell him all the time, I take my hat off to him because he really wanted this. You know, for a while, he sung with the Friends of Distinction. And when Scotty heard him, he was the first tenor. He sang first tenor with them, and he was singing with the radio, and that's how Scotty heard him. But when he got with us, Nick said, you can sing well, you're nice looking, but you can't move. So for the first year, Lavelle sang the background parts behind the stage. So, but at the same time, they were rehearsing all these moves that we were doing. And Lavelle said, listen, Nick, I'm ready now. I got the moves. You know I know the parts. And I laugh at him all the time because the night that we told him that he was going to go on stage, it scared him to death. He panicked because he was used to singing backstage with nobody watching him. So after all that rehearsal, he finally got his opportunity to be on stage. And the first night was kind of a bust because he came back and told us, he said, man, I never realized how hard it is at being on stage when you got 1,000 people looking at you and you don't know what to do with your hands and you don't know what to do with your arms, you know? And so Nick said, just do what we've been doing, like we've been rehearsing. And within about a week or so, he was locked in and he'd been there ever since.
That's what I call paying your dues and being dedicated to.
That's exactly right.
Your goal and what your dream, you know, is.
That's right.
Oh, wow. So you got your first gold hit, and you ran into someone from here, from Indianapolis, Indiana, right?
Oh, buddy. Yes, sir. That was a few years later. I'll tell this story. We actually met Face in LA at the Atlanta Jazz Festival. They were from Indianapolis. You know that. But these young guys were so talented. They were young producers. And we met them, and I never will forget this. We came back and we told Dick Griffey, the president and owner of Solar Records. We said, Dick, we met these two guys, two young producers, and they really want to be like the Deal. You know, the Deal, they were in a group called the Deal, but the Deal wanted to be like Prince, if you remember.
Exactly.
And when we met them, you know, they all look like Prince, to be honest.
They all look like four Prince.
They look like princes. And but Face in particular, he had some songs that the Deal didn't really think that much of. One of them happened to be a song called In the Mood. And he said, he played it for us. He said, Whispers, I would love for you to do my song called In the Mood. The guys don't really think, you know, they're trying to be Prince, but this is more your style. And listen, you know the rest is history. We did In the Mood. Now, this was like in 1987, along with Rock Steady. Now, most people think that Rock Steady is the biggest song that we've ever had. That's not true.
No.
The biggest song that we've ever had is And the Beat Goes On. That was a double platinum. Rock Steady was almost double platinum, but it was the talents of Babyface, Kenneth Edmonds is what his real name is, and L.A. Reid from Indianapolis, Indiana.
And I remember, tell us a short story, that the one thing I remembered about the Deal, which was the name of their group, that was the first time I had seen young guys wear makeup.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
Well, they were trying to be like Prince.
Okay, yeah.
And, you know, and the fact that when I'm sitting up looking at a guy with lipstick on and an earring in one of the ears, and, you know, because, you know, we're from two different generations. And that was all an attempt of them to be like Prince. But what amazed me is that Babyface in particular, had songs that was perfect for the Whispers. Because like I said, they were so busy trying to be Prince. As a matter of fact, I often wondered later on, what would have happened if the Deal had recorded those songs? I don't think they would have actually been hits because they just had a totally different concept. But they later on, as you well know, Babyface wrote some monster hits later on. But the thing that stays with me is that I remember four guys who had this makeup on, and for some reason that wouldn't leave me. And that's what I remember about Babyface and L.A. Reid.
Yeah, but what I remember, beside that makeup, they were super talented. We're talking about four young guys. They idolized Prince, but all four of them were great vocalists. And of course, they had the luxury of having Kenneth Edmonds as the producer. He was writing songs for them. He wrote songs for us. I mean, this young guy, I mean, we told Dick about him, and Dick said, well, I want to meet him. So eventually they came to Solar Records, and if you remember, they ended up signing with Solar Records, and they ended up creating LaFace Records. So the talent was always there, and we were just lucky enough to meet them at a very early stage. And I'm sure everybody in Indianapolis, well, actually, L.A. Reid wasn't from Indianapolis. Kenneth.
It was just Babyface.
Yeah, it was Babyface. L.A. was from Ohio.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
Cincinnati.
Yeah, Cincinnati.
Right.
Yeah, Face was from Indianapolis. And it's so funny because when we met his family, now Face is the greatest writer-producer that we've ever heard. But in his family, he was the worst singer. His brothers, the After Seven, Kavan, and the rest of his brothers, those were the singers. I mean, people, I know you're from Indianapolis, but Babyface was the greatest writer-producer, but his brothers, oh my God. I mean, right today, we lost Melvin, but Kavan, I mean, you know what, the rest is history. One of the singingest guys that we've ever heard.
Another group with a distinctive voice that can never be replaced and can never be duplicated.
Absolutely.
Maybe imitated, but not duplicated.
Not duplicated, you're right.
Mr. Nicholas, he also lended his hand to penning some of your hits as well. So not only was he a choreographer and a dancer, he was a singer and a writer.
Well, the biggest ballads that we ever had was written by Nicholas Caldwell. Lady, Say Yes, Are You Going My Way? all came out of the penmanship of Mr. Nicholas Caldwell. Like you said, he wasn't just a choreographer. I mean, he could draw, he was an artist. And even though we had some of these songs, believe it or not, they were never singles, but you would have thought they were singles that was played on the radio. These were songs that came out of the album. You know, Say Yes came out of the album entitled Just the Whispers. Are You Going My Way? Do They Turn You On? I mean, all this stuff was written by Nick Caldwell. He was incredible.
You mentioned Solar Records. You guys had a little bit of contributions to Soul Train.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's a very interesting story. Solar, before it became Solar Records, it was called Soul Train Records. And how that came about, the late, great Don Cornelius, as you know, had the Soul Train TV show, which originated from Chicago. It wasn't nationwide when we came through Chicago in the middle 60s, and Don was producing a show in Chicago called Soul Train. It had not yet gone to Los Angeles and gone national. But Don Cornelius met Dick Griffey, who came to that show as our manager. And they decided, they said, look, with you being Don said to Dick, with you being a promoter and me being a television host, we have an opportunity to give exposure to every black act in the United States of America. And it was a fabulous idea. So they created Soul Train Records. The Whispers were the first act signed to Soul Train Records. But if you remember, along with Soul Train Records, Don Cornelius was bringing to the television black acts that this country had never seen. Right to this day, he doesn't get enough credit because, I mean, Michael in his infancy was on Soul Train. He brought acts to that television, and he was competing with Dick Clark, if you remember. But everybody, I don't know if you remember, on Saturday, every black person in America was watching Soul Train.
Oh, I was. Between that and American Bandstand, those were my favorite television shows to watch.
That's
and
exactly.
I always wanted to be on, most definitely, Soul Train.
Yeah.
And that's where I would see you guys. And it was pretty much, and then for a while there, I was always thinking, are they really singing?
Yeah.
A lot of
Every black act, as far as I'm concerned, that is, however they ended up, they have Don Cornelius to thank for it, because he is the one that showed America what people like Gladys Knight, Barry White, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Lou Rawls, every major act that you can think of, some before you were born and even after, they all came through Soul Train. And like my brother said, Don Cornelius to this day don't get the credit that he should get because, you know, this and that or whatever you want to call it. But we can thank him for, you know, anybody black who had a major career, they owe it to Don Cornelius as far as I'm concerned.
That's very true.
You also lended your hand as far as one of their theme songs too as well, correct?
Yeah, Don let us produce one of the theme songs. And if you remember, they played it every Saturday, and that was our production. Actually, was played with our band. You know, but the other thing about Soul Train and Solar, had Don Cornelius and Dick Griffey stuck together and not disbanded Soul Train Records, which eventually became Solar, they would have been two of the biggest black executives in the industry of entertainment. Both of them they worshiped and admired Berry Gordy at Motown. Dick wanted to really make his label at Solar just like Motown. But had these two guys really stuck together, they ended up having a disagreement. And as most people know, it went from Soul Train Records to Solar Records, which was the sound of Los Angeles. But I always say, had they stuck together, Solar went on to become a very impressive black label, imitating Motown. But had Don Cornelius and Dick Griffey stuck together, in my opinion, they probably would have created the biggest black entity in black music that we ever saw. It just wasn't meant to be, though.
Did you guys ever wonder about, now, did you guys ever write on any of your songs? Did you contribute to any of the songs, or was it always Nick?
Always, well, Scotty wrote one song. I never was a writer. I wish I could be. Scotty wrote one, but Nick primarily was the writer for the Whispers.
How do you guys preserve your voice? Because I can hear your distinctive sound, your distinctive sound still.
You know what? I contribute that to one thing, the man upstairs. We sing in the same key now that we sung in 50 years ago. And that's only one reason, the good Lord. You know, fortunately, we've never drank, you know, we've never smoked, never did drugs. That helps greatly. But we've just been very blessed. I mean, to this day, until the pandemic hit, we were performing 8 months out of the year. And when it leaves, I'm hoping that it's gone by next year. We're going to be doing the same thing. So we thank God, you know, because he's blessed us with these voices.
Now, did y'all always sing together when you first started out? Because that was a question I've always wanted to know. When you're on the microphones in the early days and videos and the shows, you saw both of you singing, lip syncing, but
Yeah.
both of you guys at the same time.
You're not going to believe this. My family asked us, they said, are y'all really singing? They didn't believe it. But what we've always done is that Scotty sings a little bit, I sing a little bit, and sometimes we sing together. But we've never pantomimed. I mean, what you hear is what it is, you know. But I never will forget my family in Texas. We were performing in Dallas, Texas. And my cousins, you know, we got many, many cousins. We don't have no other brothers and sisters, but we have a lot of cousins. They came to the show, and they call us, in our family, we're known as WL and Junior. So after the show, they said, WL and Junior, was that really y'all singing up there? They didn't believe it. We had to tell them, who else did you think it was?
I said, what? I said to my cousin, I said, didn't you see me singing? You looking right at me singing? And you asking me, was that me? I mean, what? It's done if you want to. But I think they thought, and they actually said it was so funny. They said, well, you know, nowadays, you know, they got all kind of machines. And I said, no, this is no machine. That was me and my brother singing, as simple as that.
And that's why I was thinking back in the earlier days, you both would be, again, it depends on what you're looking at. You both were looking like you were lip syncing or singing the same time, but I could only hear one voice. But that was just, again.
Yes, our voices are very close. The only difference, you being a singer, or most singers, you know, if they listen closely, I think I sung maybe a little bit higher than my brother. But other than that, and when I would come down and sing in a lower key, you just really couldn't, because we've sit back now and listen to songs. We go back and say, wait a minute. And I've said to him, that was me. He said, no, that was me. Said, no, that was me singing. Because back then, the vocals were so close, you have to listen really close to find out the phrasing or whatever. But the tone is what you're asking about, has always been the same.
Interesting. So many records and many awards and many deals later.
Oh, we're so blessed.
How long did it take for you to bring How Long out?
Well,
let me say this about How Long. I think it's very important. This is a song that was written and arranged by our bass player in our band. His name is Magic Mendez. And he actually wrote this song back in 1983. But the lyrics, what the lyrics is dealing with is asking a very simple question. How long are we as Black people gonna have to keep being treated the way we've been treated in this country from day one? That's why it was so important that we recorded this. The song simply says, how long are we gonna argue? How long are we gonna fight? How long will it take us to change wrong to right? When we heard those lyrics, we knew then, oh yeah, we gotta record this, because our people need to hear that. And the song goes on to say, that what it takes is love. Now, for some people, they say, oh, that's just too simple. But it's really not. It's what the man upstairs is talking about. If you treat the other person the way you want to be treated, we won't even have this problem. But we've been treated as long as I can remember back in 1965. The same thing was happening. It was maybe called different. We had a song called Seems Like I Gotta Do Wrong, but they were fighting about the same thing back then. Police brutality, being stopped in the neighborhood, leaving your home. You might get back home and you might not. That's what's going on today. That's been happening too long. So we're asking the question, how long we got to go through this crap? And that's how long was born. And that's why we said it, because we want to say to Black people, we think it can end if you bring love into the equation.
If you treat people the way you want to be treated. It's that simple. And you know what? The urgency that came with writing this. So we did this back in April in the middle of the pandemic. Now, Lavelle lives in Las Vegas. Me and Scotty, we live in Los Angeles. And we told Lavelle, we got to record this song right in the middle of this pandemic because that's how important it is. So you got to get on a plane and come to LA. And he told us, I'm not getting on nobody's plane. He told us that. He said, I will drive to Los Angeles, which is what he did. And we actually recorded this song in Scotty's garage wearing masks. I would go in Scotty's garage and sing my part, take my mask off. When I got through singing, I'd put it back on. He would come out. I'd go back in Scotty's house. Lavelle would sing his background parts, take his mask off, sing his part, go back in the house, because we were singing to a track that the young producer he told you about named Magic produced. Scotty would sing his part with his mask off, put the mask back on, and that's how we completed this song, because we felt that it had to be put out now. Because if you, Candy, just look around. You're young. When we came in the 60s, when we were protesting, it was mostly Black people. That ain't what's happening today. Black, brown, yellow, red, everybody is protesting about what's happening to Black people. And we think this is the time to come with music that speaks to what's going on right now.
What brought it all about, when we, like everybody else, was sitting at home and we saw the knee into the neck of George Floyd, we knew then, I say two things that have happened, and the good Lord made it possible. Thank God for music and thank God for cell phones. Because now, what we've been trying to tell them for years, you can now show them with your cell phone. There's no excuse. When we sit there and watched our brother with a knee in his neck, you didn't have to ask nobody because you seen it. We've seen a man literally die, one of our people. And thank God who had the cell phone that day, it showed. That's why you see all these different colors now. Back in the day, yeah, it was just Black people. But the reason why you see people today, because I don't care what color you are, you saw that day because we was all home that day.
That's right.
And that's what How Long is all about. That should never, we still being treated like we were 50 years ago. That should not be.
But I think it's changing though. I really feel, I don't know about you, Candy, but I really think these protests started with Black people, but it ended up, I'm saying to Scotty, I see more white people protesting than I do Black. So that tells me that people are now realizing what we as Black people have always said. I've got friends, they literally thought that what they saw with George Floyd, they said, man, we never dreamed that something like that was happening. Well, I said, listen, we've been trying to tell you for 25 years that that's been happening. To Black people, that wasn't nothing new.
No.
The only thing new about it is, like Scotty said, we now have a cell phone so everybody can see it. Thank God, young people your age, we can't tell you anything. Not only do you have the cell phone, but you can go into cell phone and Google whatever it is that you want to find out. So can't nobody lie to you no more. That is what an advantage that we have today.
You are so right. I totally agree with you. And I can't wait for the new music that's going to come out of everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And the How Long song is so appropriate. And honestly, every time I hear it, I kind of tear up. But I try to keep myself from doing that because it's still a victory song.
Yes.
I don't want to continue to have those images in my head of different things, of people losing their lives or
Right.
protesting, because unfortunately, the sacrifice sometimes equal someone's life.
That's right.
But we
Absolutely.
have to have sacrifice in order to have change.
That's
And
right.
I totally appreciate the song. I will say this. I love it. I'm going to keep promoting it. Um, we only have a few more minutes, unfortunately. This is a great conversation.
Before we end, Candy, I want to say this to you. Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you for giving us this platform, an opportunity to talk about. I can't believe when we first opened this up, I said, this girl looked like she's about 12 years old. I was so happy because we love talking to young people because you guys are, we're living in a generation now where you can't be fooled anymore. So I want to say thank you, Candy, for having me and Scotty on. We don't take this for granted. It's not a, it ain't a plaything. We appreciate you giving us this opportunity to talk about our song. And I know you're going to play it. And I just want you to know that we appreciate it with all our heart.
Yes,
And the
yes.
last thing I want to add to what Walt is saying to all of our Black people, if there ever was a time, Black people, for you to go vote, this is it. Vote like your life depends on it, because take my word for it, we've been here long enough to know that your life does depend on it. This is one time we have got to get this gentleman out of the White House. So don't let the rain, don't let the snow, don't let nothing stop you this time. And you should ask yourself, why are they trying so hard for you not to vote? That should speak volumes to you. Go to the polls, Black sisters and brothers, and vote this time.
I agree. I agree. I will say this, guys. How can they reach you? To book you, to or follow you? You guys
We
have social media pages?
Yes, we're on every platform that there is. You just go to it, it's YouTube, CD Baby, you name it. I mean, Instagram, we're over. The song is now, we have a video to it. You can go to any one of them and it tells you how to contact, and it simply says The Whispers, not Whispers, The Whispers. And it'll tell you everything that you need to know.
And you guys also have a merchandise website,
We
right?
have,
Yeah, thewhisperstore.com.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Say that again for me.
Pardon me?
it's called thewhisperstore.com.
Yeah.
You can pick up whisper caps, t-shirts, or whatever you might want that's whispers, but that's where it's at, thewhisperstore.com.
Is there anything else, guys, that you want to say before we get out of here? We have 3 minutes.
No.
We're gonna leave here with some of your great hits.
I just want to say to Indianapolis, Indiana, thanks for producing one of the greatest producers, Babyface. Thank God for producing it, because we came in contact with him and he gave us one of the biggest songs that we've ever had. And like I said, Candy, thank you. We appreciate that.
Well,
That's the main thing. Thank you, my sister, for giving us this platform. We appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. I thank you. And I also want to give a shout out to Keep It Real Radio on the Rise. Janice was the one who offered her kindness to help get this interview orchestrated. So I appreciate her. I appreciate you all for allowing me to come in. I will say this. The next time you guys are here in concert, I'm going to go. Definitely want to make sure I get a chance to meet you. Did you guys make the February show in Gary, Indiana?
We were scheduled to be in there, but you know what? No, we were scheduled to come to St. Louis, as a matter of fact. I'm sorry, Indianapolis. We were scheduled to be there in May, but it was every pandemic shut everything down. But the schedule, you know what? Everything is arranged for next year. Come 21, you will see us.
Oh,
We look forward to seeing you.
Well, I appreciate you guys. I'm going to, with the last few seconds that we have right now, I'm going to hopefully get some kind of songs going here. So guys, make sure you stay tuned, log on, support them. download the new song, How Long, and I don't know what I have here, but we're gonna let it ride out until it cuts off, okay?
Candy,
Okay. Thank you so much.
we
Thank you,
appreciate
guys.
it. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Had to set the mood.
Oh, thank you.
Guys, thank you so much for joining the Candy Show. Please stay tuned. Make sure you support the Whispers. Follow them. Go to their merchandise store. And make sure you guys stay safe. Practice social distancing. Wear your mask. Bye.
Let me do things my own way. This is what I do.